Hey everyone, I'm Evan, the creator of Anakari, and today I'm going to demo the latest feature that I've added to Anakari, which is delay lines. So I'm going to start with this simple instrument, maybe something like a hand drum. Let's listen to it. So I'm not going to build this from scratch because in previous videos I've gone through how to create simple instruments like this. Just a couple strings of masses with springs. We've got some mallet exciters and we have a couple microphones. Yeah, to get that kind of hand drummy type sound. The damping is set really high. It's set 7.8, and that kind of keeps it from ringing and makes that more of like a drum sound. And right now I have these two microphones panned. This one is panned to the left, hard left. This one's panned hard right. And we get that sound. So okay, so to talk about delay lines, first I'm going to create a new exciter. So by default it's a mallet, but I'm going to change it to an audio input exciter. And audio input exciters, as I've demonstrated in previous videos, take an audio input signal and they turn it into a force, and that force is applied to the connected mass, the same way that a mallet applies a force to a connected mass. So you can't hear anything here because this audio input exciter is not connected to anything yet, but you can see that it's vibrating as I talk because I have it connected to the microphone that I'm speaking through for this demo. So I'm going to connect it now, and we still don't hear anything because the gain is set really low. So we're going to adjust the gain until we can hear something. Test, test. Let's keep going higher. Test, test, test. Oh, we're starting to hear something. Okay, now we can really hear something. Aha, it's coming out the left speaker. Now it should be coming out both. So it may be difficult to understand me because my voice is being filtered through this physical system, but this is what audio input exciters do. They pipe an external audio signal into this physical mass spring system, and then we can hear the results of that. What I'm going to do now is use a new feature, which is I'm going to disable the external audio input for that audio input exciter. In the past, this feature didn't exist because it would be pointless. That was the only way to get audio data into an exciter like this. But now with delay lines, I can drag a connection from this microphone over to this exciter. And I can turn the gain down a lot because I've just created a feedback loop as we just heard. So now there's this loop. The microphone is picking up audio information, audio signal from the movement of the masses that it's connected to with these pink lines. It's turning that into an audio signal, which it's outputting through the speakers, but it's also sending that audio signal down this blue delay line back to this exciter. So that exciter will push on this mass, it'll go here, audio signal goes in a loop. So the delay line only has one parameter right now, and that's delay. Right now it's set to 1/10 of a second. We can set it as low as nothing, or we can set it up to 1 second. Right now I'll set it down to nothing. And also the audio input exciter has its own delay parameter. And so the way that these interact is that you can have multiple delay lines coming into an audio signal exciter. So in this case, I've created a delay line from both of the microphones. Each of those delay lines can have its own independent delay, and the delay controls how long the audio signal takes to get there. So with a short delay, you get feedback loops. With a long delay, you get feedback loops, but you get more of an echo effect. But each of these delay lines has its own delay, and then they're combined into one signal that has a global delay across them. And this global delay also applies to external audio signals. So everything that this is going to output is delayed by this much. So you can think of it as additive. If this delay line has a delay of 0.1, and this has a delay of 0.2, the ultimate delay will be 0.3 for that audio signal. Okay, I'm going to remove this, but keep in mind you can connect any number of delay lines into an audio input exciter. Okay, so let's hear this without the feedback loop. I can hear a bit of an echo. I'll turn up the gain a little bit more. You can hear that it's teetering on going into one of those feedback loops. But what we're hearing is the audio signal being delayed and fed back into the instrument after 0.27 seconds, and so that's why we get that echo effect. Let's play with that gain. Yeah. So if you know what audio, feedback sounds like, that's it. Okay. So let's do something else. I'm going to take this exciter and I'm going to duplicate it. And I duplicated the connections with it. And I'm going to reconnect. Oops. I'm going to reconnect this exciter to the other side. And then I'm going to take the original delay line and I'm going to move it over here. So we have a crisscross shape. So now audio signal from this microphone is coming to this side, and audio signal from this microphone is coming to this side. Let's hear what that sounds like. Okay, so now we have this ping pong effect, and because these two microphones are hard panned left and right, it kind of goes back and forth between left and right. But you might have to have headphones on to hear that. I'm going to turn down the gain just a little bit because the system is teetering on the edge of feedback. Now, what is it that keeps the system from going into that full feedback scream all the time? Well, it's the fact that these masses have a damping parameter. So that damping that is set high to get that kind of hand drum sound, that damping is also what causes the system from just screaming in a loop, because the damping causes the system to lose energy over time. Yeah, it's the same kind of, physics damping that causes any physical system to eventually slow down and come to a stop. You can think of it as friction, like maybe air resistance, that kind of a thing. And having the damping high prevents the system from going into a feedback loop unless we're pushing it really hard with these two exciters. Okay, the last thing I'm going to demonstrate is I'm going to turn the gain down first. I'm going to enable external audio input for these two exciters again. And that means that the audio signal from my voice, which is what I have connected to Anakari right now, will be piped into the system. And then also these delay lines will be delaying that audio that's received from this microphone. So let's hear that. Check, check. Check. A little bit less gain. Okay. And so now we're hearing that sort of ping pong effect with my voice. And we can mess around with things. Let's change the delay. Let's see what this sounds like with a lower delay. Lower delay is like this. Higher delay, a little bit more of that kind of effect. Okay. And remember, we can still play the hand drums through this thing. Cool. Okay, well, that's a basic demonstration of how delay lines work, how you connect them and configure them in Anakari. Let's move on to a more interesting, more musical example. Okay, here's another instrument that I've created to demonstrate the delay lines in Anakari. So this is a little bit more complicated than the last instrument, and it looks kind of quite complicated, but in reality, it's not that complicated, and I'll describe how it's built. So, well, first, let's take a listen to what it does. Okay, so now we have more of a bell sound, something a little bit more melodic than the percussive instrument that I was just building. And what you may have noticed when I played those notes is that each of the 5 notes is mapped to one of these mallets. The mallet is connected to this little configuration of masses and springs, and that's connected to a microphone. So each of these systems is a duplicate of that one. They all look kind of the same. The only difference between these systems is the stiffness of the springs. So stiffer springs means that you'll get a higher pitch. And so I tuned the stiffness of the springs to get those 5 notes on the keyboard. So each of these things is connected, but not through springs. You notice that each of them is an independent spring mass system. There's no springs connecting them. But in addition to the mallet, each of them has an audio input exciter below it. So this audio input exciter is not connected to the external input because we're not hearing my voice. What it's connected to is let's take this one for example. This audio input exciter is connected to the neighboring microphone. It's also connected to this neighboring microphone up here. And so what that means is that when this system vibrates, that audio signal picked up by this microphone both goes to the speakers and gets piped down this blue line to this audio input exciter with a delay. And then it's pushed back into the system. So what's happening here with all these systems connected in a loop is that when any of these notes are struck, you can see when this note in the lower left is struck, or maybe my camera is covering that. When the system in the lower left is struck, not only does that system vibrate, but the systems to the left and right of it also vibrate a little bit. What's happening is that the energy from this microphone is being sent over here to this audio input exciter, which vibrates this system, and it's being sent over here to this one, which vibrates this system. Now, really, all of them are going to vibrate a little bit. And you can see that all 5 of them vibrate to some extent, with the vibrations getting lesser the further away from the one that's being struck you get. And again, the reason for that is that each of these systems has its own damping, and that damping is taking energy out of the system, sort of like a frictional force, if you will. And so that's the reason that the system doesn't just go into a feedback loop. Now, of course, that also has to do with the gain that each of these audio input exciters is set to. So now on top of the basic configuration of the system, I added a couple of modulators. So like anything else in Anakari, the delay system can be modulated via LFOs, knobs, or whatever sources of modulation I eventually build. In this case, I have 2 things set up. So this is an LFO. Let's zoom in on it. And this LFO is connected via these green lines to the 5 audio input exciters. It's set to a sine wave shape, and it's got a slow frequency, but it's also connected to this knob. And this knob is going to be driving the frequency of that oscillator. So if that knob is turned fully, it's going to increase the frequency to 13 hertz. And if the knob is turned to 0, then we'll just be down here at 0.1 hertz, so almost no oscillation. So I've given myself a knob here that controls the frequency of this oscillation, and this oscillation is going to control the delay parameter for these audio inputs. So this LFO is going to cause the delay parameter for the delay lines to increase and decrease on a regular basis, and the speed with which it increases and decreases is subject to the knob that I've created. So we're going to modulate the delay. And modulating delay is kind of a weird thing. The delay is how long the audio input signal takes to go from the microphone to the audio input exciter and then get pushed into the system as a force. And so if we increase that delay while the system is running, we're going to get pitch distortion effects if we increase or decrease that delay. Because what's happening is the signal, the delay, like how far back in time we're reading that signal, is going to be moving backwards while time is moving forwards. And so that's going to decrease the pitch. Or on the other side of the oscillation, it's going to be moving forwards through time while time is moving forwards. It's going to increase the pitch. At the extreme, modulating delay fast enough could even cause the audio signal to be played backwards during the portion of the LFO's modulation that's going backwards through time faster than real time is progressing forward. So by modulating the frequency of this oscillator, we're going to get some really strange effects. Now, the other thing I've modulated here is I've created this knob. There's no LFO here. It's just a knob. And it's simply affecting the gain for all of the audio input exciters. And the gain of those exciters is going to control how much the system wants to turn into a big feedback loop. And it's fighting against that damping decay. So with this set at the default value that I've set the gain to for each of these, you can hear a little bit of an echo effect, but there's not any kind of like screaming feedback. This knob is going to allow us to turn up the amount of feedback that we see. So the first knob changes the frequency with which we're modulating the delay parameter, and the second knob increases the amount of feedback we're going to hear in the system. Okay, so I'm now going to just demonstrate a little bit of playing with the system. It's a fairly chaotic system, but hopefully I can make some cool sounds with it. All right. Well, that was my demonstration of the new delay line feature in Anakari. Hopefully that was interesting. Kind of a weird instrument to play. I hadn't practiced with that one a lot, but hopefully you can get a sense for the kinds of interesting sounds that you can get by modulating the delay, having the delay feedback between different physical systems of masses and springs. The possibilities really are endless, so I'm really excited about this feature. Thanks for watching. Hopefully, if you like this content, you might find it useful to subscribe or maybe come talk to us on the Discord server that we have. It's a lively place, and I like to get feedback from folks, and hopefully it's going to drive the next stuff that I work on for Anakari. Thanks.